All right, and we're live. Welcome to Josh and Aaron Talk About Stuff. I am Josh,
And I am Aaron.
and we like to talk about stuff. And the way it works is each week we get to pick what we want to talk about. Last week I picked, so this week Aaron gets to pick. And we just like to talk about stuff that's personal to us and or socially relevant to what's going on in the world. But before we start, I do have a bone to pick with Aaron about something he said last week. I take issue with. So I asked him about the new Foo Fighters album and Pearl Jam album, and then he boldly said that those are the last two bands of the grunge era, basically making music worthwhile. And
Oh man, I knew that was. I went back. You said you had a bone to pick with me, and I went back and I was like, "What did I say?" That could have I started listening to the intro. I'm like, "Oh, that's what I said
yeah,
right there."
he left
And
out my band, Smashing Pumpkins.
so so maybe I should back up to my statement and say they're not the last two bands of the grunge era, but they are kind of the last two grunge bands because Pearl Jam. The Pumpkins. They're not a grunge band. They're alternative. They're like their own. They're the Pumpkins. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't classify them as grunge, and I hate classifications.
But I don't
Like I
think
hate
Foo Fighters are
classifications.
grunge.
No, they're not actually.
Right.
They're not. I mean, I
But
wouldn't say the Foo Fighters are
I
grunge
know what you
either.
were saying. I think what you're really saying was to hurt my feelings.
No, of
They're the
course not.
last two
Never.
bands of the 90s that meant anything.
That is definitely not true. Hey, I saw the Pumpkins in concert like what 2 years ago, and it was
Yep.
fantastic. I would
We both
never,
did that
absolutely
one.
never say. So actually, that was my softball. I was going to clear a softball question. I was like, what is their best album? That was my softball question. What
See,
is
here's
their best album?
okay.
If,
I can be objective with it. I think because I can have a favorite, but it also not be the best. I can be
yeah,
objective with that.
absolutely.
I think it boils down to Siamese Dream or Melancholy. I
Sure.
think I think if I had to pick, I think between those two it would be Melancholy because uh, they were really at least Billy and James cooking well in the studio
Yeah.
because they kind of did most of the stuff in the beginning. But I like the way it was produced. I just like dark stuff. It's darker.
Yeah.
I think I told you one time I read that Siamese Dream was the ideal of the band, and Melancholy was the reality of the band. I think one, it's a double album, but I think there were enough good songs on it to where they even if they pared it down to a single, I mean
Mhm.
they still recorded 30 other songs on like the box set
Oh
during
wow.
that came out in a box set. But I think Melancholy is their best album.
Sure.
It was a pinnacle. So
It was a high water mark for the '90s in general, though. It really is what
absolutely,
it
yep.
comes down to. Yeah. So that actually kind of leads me then into my first topic. So here we go. I told you what it was. I told you this was coming. We both agreed we knew this topic was coming. We'll just jump
Yep.
right into it.
Yep.
And so I guess my topic the topic is simply Nirvana.
Okay.
Where do they? And if we want to be more specific, where do they fit in the pantheon of music? You know what I mean? I mean,
I
you
think I
know.
know what you mean. All right. So to give myself some background information leading up to this, I obviously know who Nirvana is and I've heard of them, but I've listened to all kinds of stuff this past week, and now of course my Facebook feed is just blowing up with Nirvana stuff.
Right? Because you're like, oh, you love these guys.
Right.
Like,
I
oh,
think there are more talented bands, but I cannot deny their impact that they had in totally opening up mainstream music to alternative that was being dominated
yeah.
by
Like I,
hair bands, big 80s. And I don't know, like 1991, I feel is like probably the best year in music because there was a lot of bands that had stuff that year that maybe if Nirvana had not had as such success, it wouldn't have opened the door for everyone else.
yeah. I mean, I agree. I think 1991 is probably one of the high water marks for music in general. I mean, if you go and look at the bands that released albums that year, and the albums they released, it's incredible. Debut albums, obviously, from Pearl Jam's 10 comes out that year. Nirvana's Nevermind, not their debut. Bleach is their debut, but Nevermind, which is just sort of this sheer force of nature on the music scene. But you know Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers, Bad Motorfinger, or is it Super? I think it's Bad Motorfinger by
Yeah.
Soundgarden, and Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and Metallica by Metallica. I mean, and then
Gish, Smashing
Octane Baby,
Pumpkins.
yeah, Gish by the Pumpkins, Octane Baby by U2. I mean, it's
Even
the albums that came out that year are just
REM's
incredible.
biggest album
Yeah, it
arguably
was
came out that
Automatic for the
year.
People came
Yeah.
out that year, I think. So, I mean, just Nirvana was like they were kind of a cultural shift is the thing. I mean, uh, and uh, people don't want, whether or not you love their music or not, and whether or not you think they're better acts or not, what they did for as a cultural shift, I think, is undeniable
Oh
in
yeah.
music and whatnot. And you know, they like you said, they opened up a door, not just for the whole grunge movement with bands like, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, the kind of the big four of grunge, and bands like
Right.
Stone Temple Pilots and stuff like that. They opened up doors for bands like the Pumpkins as well, because
Well,
and
just
even for
anything that was
REM,
not
because
80s.
if it wasn't, yeah, I mean, it's like anything that wasn't Motley Crue and Poison. And apologies to anybody watching if you're a big fan of Motley Crue and
Right.
Poison. I'm really sorry. Um, but
Uh,
those bands, they were the very antithesis of those bands.
it
I
was like
mean,
guilty pleasure. I do like Motley Crue. I
hey
do
man,
like
I won't
Motley
hold it
Crue,
against you. I
but
won't hold it
like
against
I
you.
was trying to think like, okay, well, why was it in 1991 and 1982? Because like the 80s guys, like Motley Crue, they emulated and were their heroes were like Led Zeppelin, bands like
Yeah,
that. And so it's just weird how like the natural progression turned into what we call hair metal.
yeah,
Like I said, Motley Crue,
yeah.
Def Leppard, Poison, and then all the other B acts that
There's so many.
right.
White Snake and Cinderella and
And I wouldn't call them heavy metal, but Bon Jovi was a hair pop band.
yeah, they were.
It was just
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I just feel like
It
so
was
you're
the
like,
dominant force in the music scene.
oh yeah, but just like I think either I read an article or we've discussed it like years and years ago, like the emptiness of the 80s, how like
Yeah,
the living on a prayer, yeah, I understand it, but what did it really mean? Or pour some
right.
sugar on me, like. But then if like you look at the lyrics to like Smells Like Teen Spirit, there's some weird stuff, dark stuff that at least wasn't mainstream. I'm sure there are plenty of
Yeah.
bands that talked about stuff, but like, I mean, Kurt Cobain, he's not a, I wouldn't rank him as a top vocalist,
No, but he did some stuff. Actually, it's funny
but
that
it's
you
like a
should say that.
combination of all kinds of stuff. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, no, it's interesting that you should say that. I'm with you. Like, I don't think that Kurt's like this brilliant vocalist. I think that like Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell are like those guys are the vocalists. Like, I don't think anybody can sing like Cornell. That guy was incredible. But that's a whole nother thing. But like, but I was watching this thing and I was talking about the fact that what one thing that Kurt could do that he did with his voice when he sang was he would sing the note and he would almost create um a distortion of the note in the back of his throat as
Like
he
he's
sang it,
in pain.
and the distortion was like perfectly on key.
Yep.
And they compared him to, and after we're done talking, you should go listen. They compared it to Lennon. It's what Lennon did on songs like Twist and Shout. Like if you go listen to like early Beatles
Screaming it, but
recordings,
on key.
like when Lennon's like shake it up baby, he's like he's like forcing it out, and there's this distortion in the back of his voice. It's a real similar technique. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
And like, I wouldn't consider Cobain. I don't think he would be in the 50 greatest guitarists. He wasn't a lead guy, but he come up with good riffs. But like,
I think he had an incredible gift for writing melodies.
yeah,
Like I'm not saying like it's not like his guitar playing was fantastic or anything. It's like his melodies were just there. He wrote these insane. Like, they're so catchy. Like he
yep,
knew how to. And the guy wasn't a trained musician or anything, but he knew how to like get those chords to all fit together and to create these incredibly catchy melodies.
yeah. But I was listening to like I was gonna say I prefer In Utero if I had to pick
Sure, a
between
lot
the
of people
two,
do.
but
I know my brother does.
uh, I mean you can't deny that like I mean Nevermind is one of the it might not be the greatest album. It's one of the most important ever written and released.
Yeah,
It just totally like opened up like because I can imagine it was like 1981. How old were you in 91? Just curious.
No, I mean that's cool. I turned
You
16
were
literally.
16, so
I
you're
turned
like,
16 like the 2 days after the release of that album.
so I can imagine you doing
You're
your
like,
thing in
you're like,
1991, and
you're like,
all you
what
get
is?
is, well, yeah,
Yeah,
all you get is the normal music,
yep,
and then you hear this, and you're like, what is this?
right.
It's
Like,
literally something I've never heard before.
I have never heard this before. And and here's the thing. Pardon me. On a, on a kind of on the same. It's like kind of what we're talking about. Like, and after that, like it became this like music just sort of like opened up to like all these different types of bands that we would consider alternative, and bands that sound nothing like Nirvana, and have no real connection to Nirvana outside of the fact that they weren't the normal music, and all of a sudden people wanted to just listen to it. It's like, this is
Yeah.
cool. This is just like guitar driven, a lot of guitar driven rock music without the glam and the glitz. The guy's singing, it's got a scrappy beard and a beanie on, and bands like Blind Melon and the Spin Doctors, that all of a
Okay.
sudden were just kind of cool,
They've never
for a
been
brief
cool.
shot of time. Spin Doctors are never cool. No, they were never cool, but I mean, heck,
Yeah.
I liked them. So
Um,
okay, that's cool, and I kind of know that was your take, and I wanted to hear you, I wanted to talk to you about it, because like I think I appreciate their music more, but I think that but you appreciate the relevance that the band has, and I appreciate that. I was just kind of curious though, because I know that there are other bands that came out of that era and albums that came out of that era that you far prefer to Nevermind, and that's totally cool. I just
I mean, I know that like 10 came out earlier in the year, I think, before Nevermind, but it
yeah,
didn't
I
gain
can't
a lot of
remember.
traction until this
Yeah,
floodgate opened up,
yeah,
and then both albums went diamond.
yeah.
It's
And now I
like
think 10 has actually sold more copies at this point than Nevermind.
probably.
Um, but so but it did open a floodgate for
I mean,
Soundgarden
like,
and Alice in
yeah, and
Chains
like
and all of those bands.
I don't particularly like them that much. One or two songs, but like Radiohead
Yeah,
was able to blossom.
very true.
Yeah, but yeah, culturally relevant, one of the most important albums. It's not the greatest, but it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be.
no,
But it's definitely it destroyed the 80s bands. And then
it
you
did,
see
didn't
them
it? I mean,
like they all tried to like, even though like but it took some time because I did look up like Def Leppard's 1992 album,
mhm.
whatever it was, still sold like 5 million records.
Oh yeah,
So
I
it
mean, and there
wasn't
were
like
those.
but it was kind of an overnight thing. But Def Leppard was a different animal. I think we discussed recently. They were probably the biggest of those
Yeah, I think so.
bands.
And they actually had some musical wherewithal. You
Yeah.
know, like
So, but
I
they
mean,
suffered afterwards.
they all did. That's funny. I saw an interview with one of the lead singers, and he's like, I don't even know which one it was. He's like, yeah, I didn't like it when it came out, and I don't like it now. Talking
Right.
about grunge, and he's
Right.
like, who cares if you're miserable and your parents don't like you? We just wanted to sing about drugs and girls. That's what we
Right.
wanted to sing about, and partying. And these guys came along and they wanted to sing about their feelings and how angry they were. I was like,
There's no
maybe
feelings in
that's what
rock and roll, man.
yeah, maybe that's what resonated with
Yeah.
the '90s era Gen X crowd that was like feeling a
Because I
little
can't relate to Unskinny Bop. You
What?
know what I mean?
Are you kidding me? That song's totally relevant.
It has no meaning to me whatsoever. But every
Yeah,
rose does has a thorn.
that's true. Every rose does have a
It's
thorn.
thorn. But
So
that still doesn't mean anything to me. Like,
no, nothing at all. So with speaking about a socially relevant album, we can move over to a socially relevant topic, and this one is disclaimer. This is the topic that
we're not out to hurt anybody's feelings. We're just
we're not out to hurt anybody's feelings, and absolutely, and as I preface this topic, I'll give a little background on myself, even, and speaking with complete respect and whatnot. And if you got any comments, drop a comment. I mean, so because the topic I want to talk about is the role that religion has started to take on in politics in our country. Not started to take on the role; it's always had a role in politics. The fact is, religion has always had a role in politics. I just feel like it's really in the last. election cycle taking on a really powerful role. And I grew up in a very faith-based home, very religious family, very religious father, and I'm sure that his faith played some role in any sort of political choices that he made. But I guess the question I'm asking is, what's your take on it? Because I kind of feel like I understand voting ethics and morality, if that's really what drives you, but at the same time, I feel like people are kind of starting to lose track of what government really is, and government is about legal functions for our
Right.
country. You know what I mean? Like, and we're getting really hung up now on, and I feel like Christianity in particular is really kind of driving itself into the political spectrum and how people vote and how they think. What do you think?
Well, it's a big topic.
Right, I know. I'm sorry. It's
First and foremost, um, Jesus was a cool dude. he
he
was a
really was,
he was a really cool dude. He
right?
wasn't perfect, obviously, as a human. Like, okay, a little bit of background for me. So, I grew up in a Christian family, but I'm not really like, I would say that. So I don't know, and I don't have any way of knowing what happens after you die. Sometimes I think to myself, there's nothing, there's no God, da, 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 da. But then sometimes I look at stuff about space and all that stuff, and you're like, maybe there is. How could there not be? So
Right.
I guess you would call that agnostic. So I just don't know.
Yeah, I think
I
you would call that agnostic.
think, and I don't care what, if we always say, you can be what you want as long as it doesn't hurt other people. I think that's true
Right.
of religion.
Yeah.
But I think there's a problem when you use or lobby your religious beliefs to affect societal wide laws and changes.
Right.
Like, I don't know, gay marriage. I think
Sure.
most Christians, I guess, would be against it,
Right. I think
and
so.
a sin or whatever. But then, we're supposed
But
shouldn't dis-
the laws our country are founded on state that all men are created equal, and we've gone so far with all these different laws to make people equal, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, and so
and like
where's
after
that?
we've known each other for
Oh
13
gosh,
years now, right?
yeah, long
And
time.
we've had countless conversations about this, and I've asked you
Right.
stuff before, but like I just lost my train of thought actually.
Sorry.
But no, it's I'll get it back. But I'm like, so like you brought up the founding of the country, which founded on Christian Judeo values,
Sure.
founding fathers. But if you look at the founding fathers, they were mostly deist with like Christian undertones. Like
Sure.
there was probably a being out there that created everything, but it was more of like a hands off. I created everything and then I spun
Push
it
the button.
and then it's on its own, right?
Sure.
So I don't know. I feel like I don't know. There's a focus me again. What am I supposed to be answering?
I don't know if it's really specific. I think we're talking just kind of in general about
Right.
the role that Christianity has taken on in politics, and is that, I guess it's really, is that a problem in our society?
Right. And so I guess churches aren't taxed, right?
No, no,
But yet there are some churches out there that I guess preach to their congregation who they should vote for. I don't necessarily think
absolutely there are.
that's fair, because if you're not going to participate in the greatest political thing in our country is paying taxes, then you really I don't know. This is where
No, I see where you're going, and
yeah.
I guess I'm with you. I I understand the fact that you got to let, your conscience has to be your guide for that, as people would say, your conscience has to be your guide, right?
Right.
And if your ethics, your morality is defined by your faith, then so be it. But at the same time, we've gone so far, not we, many people have gone so far with letting their faith inform their voting and then their politics, that
Yeah, and it's like turned into
it's like we,
one, what do you call it? Single voter issues.
Right. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it goes to abortion, pro-life or pro-choice. But like,
Yeah. Very frequently, it goes right there. Everything else becomes irrelevant in the name of that one issue
right,
for so many people.
I think it's okay to be like a Christian and a politician or even a judge because you're supposed to be objective, and it's
Right.
almost impossible to be like, well, I'm going to make this decision without using my faith. I think it's a very
Right.
hard thing to do, but I don't know. I think people, like, if that's what you want to believe, that's what you're going to believe. But you should also, context matters,
Yeah.
and how people wrote. I mean, the people that wrote the Bible, they wrote that after, at least the New Testament, after Jesus was dead.
Oh yeah, long after.
But like, morals and values are different 2,000 years ago than they are now,
Yeah,
especially in the Middle East.
yeah.
Then whatever. I don't, especially in the Middle East. That might be rude to say, but I'm just saying, like, in the Middle East in the year 30 BC, your values and morals are different than they are in 2021 in America.
Yeah,
Just are.
absolutely.
So when you read a passage in the Bible that has been translated, by the way, multiple
Many
times,
times.
if it says something about you're not supposed to eat like shellfish, so in one of the books, I don't know which one, something like that.
Yeah.
But like, why is he? What you got to ask? Well, why are they? Why is
Yeah.
that written there? And does it
Right.
apply? Because I'm sure a lot of people eat shrimp still. I'm just
I
saying,
happen to be
like,
quite fond of it.
yeah, and I don't know. I think talking about the election cycle and stuff, there's like this huge backlash now to like reassert Christianity into the nation,
Right.
and it's more harmful, I think. Um, like, I don't understand. Like, just let people, if they don't want to believe, then
Yeah, I
why you have to bother them about it, or I don't know.
maybe that's what it comes down to with with for me and with the question and the reason behind the question that I asked is because it's become this notion on the part of many where it feels like we have to save the nation, the soul of the nation. Well,
Right.
the nation's soul doesn't need saving in the way that you're thinking. I'm not saying this nation doesn't need some help, but
Right.
the biblical soul of this nation is doesn't need saving in that respect.
Right.
And it's not bringing religion into something about just when it comes to the ruling and functioning of our country.
Right.
You know, uh, I don't know if it has a place there.
Right. I mean, practice your faith.
Yeah.
But like,
On a personal level, if you want to vote your faith on a personal level, then so be it. But when it begins to infringe upon basic human liberties,
yeah.
we have a problem.
Right. And that's the thing, though, is because people want to go back to, well, we were founded on these values,
Right.
but I don't know. I just I think people just need to tone it back, and like,
Yeah.
I know, because there's a million different possibilities this conversation could go to.
Yeah, there are.
Right. I don't know. How do you like? So your dad he was a pastor,
He was,
ordained or
yeah, he
anything
was a
at
minister.
least?
Yeah, he was a minister.
And he was, um, like, he believed, he knew
Yeah.
what was going to happen when he died.
Oh yeah.
And did you ever ask him questions about it?
About that?
Like, how do you know, Dad? You know, those kind of questions.
Yeah, I did actually. I asked him questions like, "How do you know?" Because I went through a spot where I was like, when I was like 16, where I was like really not sure what I believed at all.
When Nirvana hit it big.
Right, exactly. When
Vince.
Nirvana hit there, I'm like, "What do I believe? What do I believe?" And my dad's being like, everybody got to figure it out for themselves and believe what they got to believe,
So
and you got to let.
was he like, you will be Christian, you will learn these ways that I learned, or
Yeah,
was
he
he
was.
okay?
He was. I
But
mean,
did he get mad at you? I mean, did you ever have that, like, how would you consider, are you agnostic, atheist? Where have you moved in your life?
I don't even know what I am
You don't even
anymore.
know.
I really don't even know. I don't know.
See, like, the idea of God doesn't bother me. Like a being,
Right.
it's organized religion has done a lot to discriminate against, hurt others. A lot of people
Mhm.
died in the name of,
In the name of God, killing in the name of.
and a lot of religions have had that. So it's like
Yeah.
not like I'm not against a being that has done this because I don't know.
Right. Yeah. The objection is the corruption of ideals by people. People
yeah.
take these ideals, these notions, these thoughts, these processes, and they get corrupted by humanity. Everything about humanity always comes back to who can be in control, who can have power. I mean, in my personal opinion, I mean, people just who can have the power. Jesus was a hippie, and I've said that to you before.
Speaking
Jesus
of
was a hippie.
being a
He
hippie and
wanted to hug
stuff,
everybody.
in our topic from last week, socialism. I wonder how
All right.
Jesus would feel about socialism.
I think he'd be all about it. That's the thing. I mean, I think he'd be
I
all
mean, I think
about
he
it.
was definitely anti-capitalist.
Oh yeah, big time. I think so too. I mean, and I guess
Right.
I just think, yeah, yeah. So I don't even know what topic we're on now, but the fact of the matter is,
Something
yeah,
to
I
do
mean,
with Christianity. It's got to
something
move
to do.
towards religion. And
Yeah, it's got to move towards religion, which is fine. I mean, it's fine. Just I think that it gets, so much of it I think gets distorted over time. You
yeah.
know,
Well, speaking of which, so in preparation for this too, I looked up like Christianity, and the tenets. But then there's like Catholicism, Baptist,
just
Methodist.
the different denominations.
But they all use the same book, right?
Right.
So how can you have so many different denominations?
I think it's just it's all about interpretation. It's
But see, that's another
interpretation.
thing that. So I guess this is shifting towards the Bible.
No, it's okay.
That bugs me. That how can one? I understand why the Catholic Church had a reformation against it
Yeah,
because it was
it was
abusing
very
a lot of stuff. But like,
yeah.
how can you interpret the Bible differently if it's kind of like the one true book? You
Right.
know what I mean?
If
Like, how
everybody
can there be
is
so
sure
many
that their
different
interpretations
interpretations?
right.
That's weird to me.
Like everybody is just bound to determine that their interpretation
And
is right and that nobody else's is.
there's a
And
lot of stuff that
not entirely true, but
people use in the Bible that a lot of it comes from the Old Testament. Then when you
hold
call
on.
them on it, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm a New Testament guy." No, 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 you got to take both.
Yeah.
And because like the Old Testament is like the Judaism to the
Yeah.
Torah, basically, right? And then
Basically, I think for the most part.
and Jesus was Jewish,
So he read that.
right? And but then like the New Testament was written after him,
Yeah. But about
and
him.
then they like smushed it in.
Smashed
So
it all together.
explain the two different like explain that. Why did they smush it in and add it to the Old Testament? If you know,
I really don't.
maybe somebody
I
can
think
tell
it's because
us.
they decided that both pieces of it were important for their own reasons. One is like the one is like the beginning, the origin, whereas the other is kind of what it becomes, and you kind of need like both parts. I think is the idea,
Right.
but
Uh
I'm not a scholar
do
on
you
that, and I would be
think
remiss to try and give a full answer.
right. Another thing that it just bugs me, but people want to believe what they want to believe. When they say I just have faith.
Right,
That like I don't know. I'm
which is
like, well,
always kind
how
of
do
my
you
bad.
why don't like you got to have
Totally,
proof. And like I don't know if science is the antithesis of religion or not,
I don't think so. I don't think it has to
but
be. I
like,
think that's part of
science
the problem.
you got to have footnotes and references. There
Right,
isn't really any of that in the Bible. There's no like
got to read it and believe it.
yeah, I just want to so like
And I
if
think
you're going to believe in revelations and angels and demons, and that like I think I don't know in any other dimension, people might be like you might think you're crazy. I don't
right.
know. uh,
What is religion is really just the quest for the human quest for understanding of things that it can't understand. Is really what it comes down
but I
to.
mean, I understand like it's scary to think about what is going to happen after you die,
Right.
whether it's nothingness or hell or whatever. And I'm in the middle of my midlife crisis dealing with it. You know what I mean? Like eventually I get to the point where it doesn't matter. Cause I've asked like my grandfather-in-law who's 85, he doesn't care when he's going to die.
It's like, whatever.
You got
Who
over,
cares?
you get to the point where you don't
Who
care
cares?
for so long. And then you go
Yeah.
through a period where like, oh my God. And now I'm
Then you
slowly
get to a
getting
period you
out
just
of
don't
that.
care.
Like, but like, it is scary to think about, like, cause it's kind of like that space question we've asked each other. What's more scary?
Right.
We're the only ones out there, or there's so many out there, but like, what's scarier?
Right.
Nothingness or
Or
something's going
something.
to happen, like, and
Right. I
what
know.
is that going to be? I'm going to be
Yeah.
sucked through a wormhole and like travel the universe forever, or,
Right. Become one with the universe.
but I watched recently Neil deGrasse Tyson thing where they were asking about death or whatever, or not
Yeah.
existing, and it was like you didn't exist before you were born, so that's probably what it's like. And you're like, oh, well, it's no big deal then, was it? Which is just a weird thing to think about, like, because
It's hard to wrap your brain around though,
right,
because now we have existed, and so
yeah, that's the worst part. Like,
right.
I
Exactly.
wonder. I think we don't give animals enough credit, but I don't know if like my dogs really understand that one day they're gonna die. I
Right.
think when it happens, they're like, oh crap, I don't feel right. But like, do they really understand? And who
Right.
knows what happens? I don't know. But like, I think the original part of this conversation, Christianity and politics, I think one, I don't think we needed religion as a human species to get to the point of you shouldn't murder people.
True. Right. It should be just a kind of a given.
Well, I think because of the way that we evolved, I think feelings and emotions help us become closer. And if you're closer to somebody, you want to protect them.
Right.
Like
Makes sense.
a alligator will protect its babies till they're born, and then you're on your own.
Right.
You know, most mammals live in a family unit. It's beneficial, but I don't think. I think. Oh, but like with like Christianity, I don't think Native Americans, they didn't need Christianity to know that they shouldn't kill each other or steal from
Right.
each other.
Right.
Before that was brought over here.
There's this basic sense of morality that's sort
Right.
of
So I don't think like the 10 Commandments are essential as part
to the
of
running of our country.
right. I think we eventually came to that point without religion, at least in the religion as we know it now. And I definitely don't think I think they say we have a separation of church and state, but yet there's a lot of church involved in a lot of these decisions being made.
Yeah, there are.
And
I guess
people
that
want to
was
confuse the
that's the
Declaration of
question.
Independence with the Constitution.
Right.
Because it says, endowed by our creator in the
Right.
Declaration of Independence. All that did was separate us from England. We were still 13 independent states.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the Constitution that's founded this government that even makes any mention of religion, really.
No.
Nothing in the Word of God or a creator. So, I mean, you can, but the founding fathers were, well, not really.
Even
They
if they
weren't.
were.
Yeah, that's no big deal if they were. But here's my say on it. If you want a government that's full of religion and a constitution riddled with it, then live in Iran. That's where church and state aren't separated.
And it can get ugly.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we can have our secular stuff and we can have our religious stuff. They don't always have to.
They don't have to hold hands all the
It's
time.
a weird
They have to set it off
conversation.
the table. Yeah, right.
But you can practice. Like I said before, you can be whatever religion you want to do, but if you use it to affect other people who are not religion, that's where the lines get crossed.
Absolutely.
But on the same token, someone who's not religious shouldn't be all out trying to ban religion.
No, absolutely not. And you're very right. Let people, like you said, let people do what they, let people do. But it's like, keep we separate. Let's
right, and we can all live in harmony. It's just people just need to mind their own business.
Maybe that's what it comes down to, Josh.
Just mind your own business,
People
man. Like,
mind their own business.
If I'm doing something that you don't like, you don't have to tell me.
Right.
If it doesn't personally affect you, what's the problem?
We've become so everybody wants to be everybody in everybody else's business, and
right.
that's
and
another
if
topic.
There's something that I think you need to know, I'll share it. You know what I mean? But then
Maybe
again,
it's next week.
yeah.
Everybody get the ball in everybody else's business because
Right.
right now that's where we're at. Everybody wants to get in everybody's business.
Yep. Yep. All right.
All right.
Well, I guess we'll end it there. That was a
Yeah,
that was a lot of tangents, a lot of sidebars there,
that's
but
okay.
yeah, it's totally fine. Tune in. Actually, we're gonna start doing 2 a week. So
Yeah,
Monday, I'll let Aaron know what we're gonna talk about, and he'll let me know what we're gonna talk about for next Friday. But
nice.
we'll see you then, and have a wonderful time. And smash that like button. I hear people say on
Yes.
YouTube channels.
Like and subscribe. Like and
Yeah, and
subscribe.
share it with your friends so people can hear it. And then tell it if you want to leave a comment and let us know what you think, do that too. All right.
Like, hey,
See ya.
you guys were way off topic this time. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no big deal. All right. See you later.